Hello, Professor. Hello, class. Today I have a presentation to present to you guys. I've also created a PowerPoint if you would like to follow along. I use the PowerPoint as my note cards. I wasn't able to get any co-workers involved in this project. Right now I'm currently on travel, military travel. So as we go along, I will tell you, next slide, and we will continue. Thank you. What are we saying? In this life we live, we engage in interpersonal communication. I've also learned that culture plays a major role in interpersonal communication and how it applied to my marriage. Next slide. Today's presentation will consist of 6 main topics. All topics focus on culture and interpersonal communication. What is culture? What is interpersonal communication? How does culture and interpersonal communication work? How does nonverbal communication play a part? How does verbal communication play a part? And how does culture and interpersonal communication play a part in my life? Next slide. What is culture? Wood stated, the beliefs, values, and understandings, practices, and ways of interpreting experience that are shared by a group of people. Also, in other research I found through Geary, culture provides its members with an implicit knowledge about how to behave in different situations and how to interpret others' behavior in such situations. This quote really helps explain my slides and my research. Intercultural communication. Speak when spoken to. In my culture growing up, we weren't allowed to question things. If we did, then we were talking back or we were starting an argument. Also, Wood stated, within the United States, there are distinct social communities based on race, gender, and sexual orientation. Growing up as a kid in junior high, I noticed that socially, race was segregated, social class was segregated. Back then, gender only played a role with males and females and bias to certain things that males and females were supposed to be doing. Wood also stated, scholars don't only study minorities and social communities. Scholars aren't picking on just minorities, or they're not just focusing on minorities. They also focus on whites, the gender, race, and social. There's got to be something to compare it to. We're all human beings, and they look at that as a whole. Next slide. What is interpersonal communication? Communication between people, sometimes in close relationships, such as friendship and romance, as Wood stated. October of 2015, me and my wife first met. We were just co-workers in the Navy. In July of 2016, our interpersonal communication was in progress since October of 2015, and we became just friends. Fast forward to March of 2010, I knew she was the one. Next slide. How does nonverbal communication play a role? All forms of communication, other than words themselves, includes inflection, and other vocal qualities, as well as several other behaviors such as shrugs, blushing, eye movements, as Wood stated. A couple things about nonverbal communication that stuck out to me was kinesics, using hands and walking away. I use my hands to show affection, like haptics, body movements such as walking away could show aggressiveness. Not really too many good things about walking away. Olfactics, I remember when I first met my wife, and even till this day, I use smell to reminisce. I use smell to show interest. Also, I use smell to present myself. Proxemics, personal space. I've learned throughout our relationship that personal space is invaluable. When in an argument, getting too close could be a warning sign, a hazard. Back up. We all need our personal space. However, in an intimate situation, personal space can display affection. Paralanguage, voice quality. I only knew yelling and talking. I didn't understand raising your voice, being excited. I always looked at it as you were either mad or happy. Silence. Silence could be good and bad. When in an argument, you don't want to keep arguing to be hurtful, so you can say nothing. Or it can be bad by when being talked to or explaining something and you don't say anything. The other person can portray that as you don't care. Next slide. How does verbal communication play a role? Wood stated, words and only words does not include inflection, accent, volume, pitch, or other paralinguistic features of speech. So when me and my wife first we first started our relationship when I met her, back in 2015, we were talking and texting, just to show interest. Later, we were talking about the past to get to know one another. We were showing that interest. Well, I never communicated verbally that I was interested in a relationship further than just friends. So that led us down the road of just being friends. Long story short, I got a second chance. I got to start over, but this time talking on the phone and texting wasn't good enough. I needed face-to-face communication. I needed to show her that I was interested and that she was the one. Next slide. Summary. How did culture and interpersonal communication play a role in my marriage? Had I wouldn't have known, or I didn't know at the time, all these cues came together and our cultural backgrounds, getting to know each other, wouldn't have glued together, then I wouldn't be the way I am today. So culture and communication played a major role in my life and in my marriage. Thank you guys for sitting through this presentation. We're excited. Is on the next slide. Have a good night.